Hello and welcome to the third episode of Criminal Profiling. Today we're going to be looking at Jeffrey Epstein. Last week we looked at his one-time partner and accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. Today we're going to look at the ringleader himself. And so it's going to be an interesting day, and we're going to be using our criminal profiling methods in a much bigger way today. And what I mean by that is your participation. You'll be helping me to pick out the keywords we're going to use that we expect to see in the chart. There are two classifications for our method, and that is a 100% word that we believe is going to be 100% in that chart. And then there's going to be tentative words. So this is how we are going to separate suspects. It is based not anything to do with astrology. It's only based on words, everyday words, and how they're used. But how important are they involved in this case, or how we can use them, is going to be a whole other matter. They become much bigger deals and harder to pick and very tricky, because you need to see the world like Jeffrey. If you're going to be a serial profiler, you need to see the world like Jeffrey. You have to take the lens of the law and put that aside. You have to take the lens of your own morals and put that aside. You want to be Jeffrey Epstein in order to pick these words properly and to be able to work with them. Okay? And you'll see what I mean, because our job is very much the same as in Quantico with the Behavioral Sciences unit. Their job is to narrow down the list of suspects. Their job isn't to find the guilty party. It's to help you find the guilty party by narrowing down that list of suspects. That's what we're going to be doing as well. So we work on a par with the profilers using a different method, but hopefully the two methods together would help them that much more. And that's what I'm hoping to convince people of in the future, because the systems actually is very, as you'll see, works very well. So let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein for a second here, because we're going to be doing a bio, then we'll do the word list, then we'll look at the chart and compare and see how we did with each other. Because you'll be picking your own. Make sure you have a pad and pencil, because you're going to want to pick which words you think are going to be found in that chart, which are most important. Now, as the criminal profile, now you have to remember that Jeffrey Epstein's already been found guilty in the past, 2008, of procuring a minor for the purposes of prostitution. So he's on a sex offender list. He is a sex offender in the eyes of the law and stuff like that, right? So if you look at the criminal profilers, they might list Jeffrey under one of two types of offenders. He may be a situational offender or a preferential offender. If he's a situational offender, this is somebody who's opportunistic, who takes advantage of the opportunity or the situation as it arises, hence the situational. So Jeffrey could be driving down the street, sees a 14-year-old girl, that's his type, and there's nobody around. He might pull his car over and offer her a great job or money and blah, 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 would take it over from there, take advantage of that opportunity. Now, as most people who know Jeffrey Epstein know that he was nothing like that. He was completely not like that. So in preferential, this is somebody who has preferences. They have a set pattern of how they like things played out, and they know how they want it played out. It could be playing out a fantasy they have or things they find exotic or erotic, but they have a set, concrete plan. And so we can take that word, preferential, a person who has the same MO or a set MO or a set ritual, right? And what that means to us in astrological terms is we're going to be looking for earth signs, especially because earth signs are your most practical, logical. They have set patterns and set ways. They're not fluid and just changing their mind every 2 minutes. They have a set pattern. Okay, so we're going to be looking for that later on. We want to keep that in mind as an earth sign maybe, or a heavy-duty logic, which is usually connected to earth anyway. But earth is going to be a primary suspect for us in terms of a preferential. So we want to see that later. Keep that in mind, okay? You can even mark that down, because we'll be coming back to that preferential situational thing too, of which he would be categorized. Now let's get through this bio. In this bio, basically you're getting... if the police come to you and they give you a bio, they may give you a bio of 100 people. So they might come to you and say, we got a sex offender we're trying to catch. He could be one of 100. All we know is he's, judging by the crime scenes, as you'll see, this guy's probably done it many times over. He's a seasoned sex offender. So he knows what he's doing. He's getting good at it, And we believe he's operating in this area. So we've taken a whole bunch of people that we believe, that live in this area, that we believe in this 100 people is the person we want to get? Can you narrow down this list of 100 suspects for us so that we don't waste so much money on manpower and time? We want to get this guy. So that'd be your job, is to go through and get keywords according to what the crime scenes were, which we're going through here. The crime scenes consisted of this and this. And we start marking keywords, and then we separate the suspects and narrow them down. We keep doing that. And that's kind of the idea here. We're kind of narrowing down words that we want to see. Okay? And so that's what our job is today. So let's first look at the bio, because that's where we get our words from, right? Crime scene stuff, all that sort of stuff. But today we'll go through the bio. Just take it from there. So without further ado, let's shrink my head, get the first one up. We don't have much time. Let's get through this bio really fast, because the important part is the words. And most of you know about Jeffrey Epstein anyway, but I want to be full and complete for those people who don't know or need a refresher. Okay, Jeffrey Epstein was a self-made millionaire, billionaire, came from a middle-class family, has one brother. He has properties in New York, Paris, New Mexico, Florida, and a private island in the Virgin Islands. This guy's wealthy, and his properties aren't small. They're big, okay, mansion-type things, okay, or entire islands, as it were. It is believed that his net worth was about $600 million at the time of his death. I don't know where I got that from. I don't even believe it. I mean, he paid around $800 million just for the island. So I don't know why I put that even. But anyway, that's what they're saying, is this one place that he's worth about $600 million at the time of his death. I think it should have been a lot higher, but what do I know? He was a genius with math and physics. True. That's actually confirmed by so many people on, the people he worked for. He skipped 2 grades in high school. He's a bright guy. And taught physics and calculus at the prestigious Dalton School. So he skipped 2 grades. His powerhouse subjects are math, really. And he likes physics. So at the Dalton School, he befriended Alan Green, who hired him as an assistant at Bear Stearns. So he wasn't a teacher for very long. He goes from there right to Wall Street, basically. Bear Stearns is huge. So that's like going right from there to Wall Street. So this guy's good at math, and he can produce results. Or they wouldn't have hired him. And they kept him on, remember, even after finding out he lied on his resume and stuff, his application. They still kept him on because he makes them money. After leaving Bear Stearns, he's rich now, by the way. He rose up the ranks fast. He left Bear Stearns around 1987, a rich man. And he was involved in a Ponzi scheme after that, but was never charged. A Ponzi scheme involves fraud. So we can keep that in mind. He was involved in a fraud. His main or known client was Leslie Wexner, CEO of L Brands and Victoria's Secret, whom he became the financial advisor for in 1988. Otherwise, his financial income and he himself is largely shrouded in mystery. Though we know he ran 2 of his own businesses, one in 1981, IAG, working with both the embezzled and the embezzlers, playing both sides. And Jeffrey Epstein and Company in 1988, which he moved to the Virgin Islands to avoid paying taxes. You'll notice I'm making marks all over the place. Those are just my own marks. You can make your own or whatever, The mystery thing is what gets me. He's so much shrouded in mystery all the time, man. All the time. So we don't know much about him except for, this dude here, Wexner, his main and only known client, really. So that comes back in a big way. I just wanted to keep that in my mind, the amount of deception and mystery surrounding this guy. It is strongly believed that he was involved in shady financial deals. The Deutsche Bank hounded him to join them, knowing already he is a big red flag. Some of his financial dealings were pretty sketchy. Were pretty obviously sketchy too. And he was a convicted sex offender at the time too. But that didn't stop the Deutsche Bank. They still wanted him. Money talks, right? He had innumerable powerful contacts around the world, many introduced to him by his one-time girlfriend turned partner and accomplice in regards to his sex trafficking charges, Ghislaine Maxwell. It amazes me, even to this day, how many people they were connected to and knew. It just amazes me. Just how many people. It flips me out. It never ceases to amaze me just how many people they were connected to. Whenever somebody talks about Epstein, any magazine, even early in his career, they always talk about him as a man of mystery. Nobody knows anything about him. He's kind of in the background. Ghislaine meets him. I forget what the year was. Was that 2000? No, was that 2002 or something like that? No, I forget. That's kind of thrown off my mind. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Epstein was charged and convicted in 2008 with procuring a minor for prostitution and would receive an 18-month sentence. He would only serve 13 months of the sweetheart deal and was allowed to work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and was still apparently involved in sex trafficking while out working, during his jail time. Yeah, so he's above the law in a lot of ways. Absolutely was above the law. In fact, the first complaints that people went to the police and the FBI about, they were ignored both by the police and the FBI, if people remember. They don't mention that on TV much anymore, but yeah, a 14-year-old, I believe, that was involved or something like that. Went to police, FBI with the older sister or something like that. Anyway, the police didn't do anything and the FBI didn't do anything. It wasn't until a journalist got involved that the ball started rolling. You don't hear that much on TV anymore. But whatever. That's what went down there. They were ignored in the beginning until somebody who was more threatening could get the ball rolling for them. In 2019, further charges surfaced with multiple witnesses, and Epstein would plead not guilty for sex trafficking charges. He would die within a month of being held in custody. The circumstances were more than suspicious, and though it would be claimed he hung himself, likely the majority of people believe he was murdered or strangled. And I'm one of those people, because too many things go wrong in one night and it's so ridiculous. And the most high-profile case that involves princes, presidents, and all the cameras break and everybody goes to sleep and then he hangs himself. No. So I never believed that, and they keep pushing that on us, don't they? This stuff. The family of Epstein hired their own pathologist who believes it was consistent with murder, as several neck bones were broken, including the hyoid bone, which is typically broken when a victim is manually strangled. A lot of people who read books on true crime know that already. When somebody's manually strangled, very often the hyoid bone is broken, and that's one of the telltale signs of strangulation. So, and of course, this is said to be that it could happen, if he hung himself a certain way or whatever. But you also notice something else: they never bring up that pathologist anymore. He's been filtered out of the main media. Okay, even though he's fully qualified, because they want people thinking it was a suicide. So they don't want this pathologist talking on camera or in the media, in the public. So they've filtered him out, but he shouldn't be filtered out. No, they want you believing something that probably never happened. So I'm going to go with the manually strangled, or still alive. Who knows? This guy had power and money, and he can do pretty much anything he wants. So I think he was either murdered or he's still alive and well somewhere, and the whole thing was put on with some makeup and put a few pictures out to you to satisfy you. Off he goes. Who knows? Who knows? You can't really, you can only suspect so many things. I got no proof of anything anyway, so let's continue. It is alleged that he was being trafficking girls since the early 2000s or before. I don't have a set date on that, but from about the early 2000s at least, or before, he was already into the young girls and stuff. And they do call it trafficking. Victims claim that Epstein was often procuring up to 3 girls per day. That's a lot. So that's something that's a lot. That's a lot of girls. Wasn't that 21 girls a week or something like that? I'm not really good at math, but hey, that's Jeffrey Epstein's place. But anyway, I think that's a lot of girls a week. That's a high libido. So you see me marking things here that's like, wow, 3 girls a day. And the victims, there's more than one victim that said this. It's very well known that he had this constant flow of girls coming over, just constant, never ending, man. So yeah, that needs to be written down and considered. Epstein has his residences loaded with audio-enabled cameras in nearly every room, if not every room, including on his private plane, the Lolita plane. Thousands of hours worth of tapes that nobody's ever going to see. You notice that those aren't being mentioned? How convenient, that way you don't get to watch the prince on camera. What's up with that? Or any of these other people? There was a lot of people that were involved, right? A lot. And they're all on film, but we're not going to see them. Interesting, eh? Anyway, that's more stuff that's being squashed. Who knows what will happen in the future, though? Maybe they'll release something ridiculous just to satisfy just to satisfy the public. Who knows what they'll do? But that's interesting, because that's a fact that he was loaded with cameras. So he's not just concerned with theft. He's got something else going on there. He's spying on these people, right? He's like, there's something going on. So many cameras, audio, video. So there you go. That's a lot. Epstein had his, okay, we did that. MO of sexual, so the MO of the sexual assaults were almost always the same. when in Epstein's residence, just as we found with preferential offender. He was the preferential offender. It typically began with a massage, which Epstein clearly loved receiving. He went through that ritual over and over and over and over. And he did love receiving massages, like, obviously. You even see pictures of Ghislaine massaging his feet with her hands and breasts on the plane and everything, those released photos. Okay, let's get this over with. Claims of victims included orgy or orgy-like scenarios where multiple underage girls were procured and entertained high-status guests. Entertained high-status guests. Interesting way to look at it there, right? The girls were often, if not always, gifts for these guests. So Epstein was said to have received gifts of young girls from various high-status people from around the world as well. So that's interesting. I know on his birthday one time, a president somewhere sent him 3 young girls, his favorite age bracket, to spend the day entertaining him, and then went back later. It was a birthday thing. So, yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at how they're doing this, how they're operating. So it's almost like he's saying, welcome everybody, help yourself to the drinks and whatever we got some entertainment here for you, being the girls. And is that the way he's operating? We need to know things, how he's operating, right? But it's looking that way, because I've heard that said over and over and over. The girls were like gifts, I want, just like that blonde that was with Prince Andrew. Somebody said to her, apparently, that I want you to do for the prince what you do for Epstein. And that was clear what she was supposed to do. You might have seen those videos yourself. So, and she's not the only victim, of course. We've heard this from multiple victims. Okay? So that's really important. It has been alleged that Epstein wanted to have multiple girls sleeping around his bed on the floor, to be surrounded by young girls like Julius Caesar, Caligula. Literally, this tells us a bit about how he sees himself. He wants these young girls strewn all over the floor while he sleeps in the captain's bed, the king's bed. And he gets up, puts on the robe and the crown. They're all fanning him, feeding him grapes and stuff. That's the kind of image you get from it, right? It's ridiculous. But that's what he wanted. He wanted girls all around the floor, right? Young girls. So that kind of tells you a bit about how he sees himself and stuff. Okay? Pretty high up. King, prince, he's right up there with them. The highest order. Important. Ghislaine was much like that too, right? She needed to be seen or just function with the highest people. Status. Just the highest order of everything. It has been claimed and believed by some, including Jeffrey, he claimed this, that he worked as an intelligence agent. But this was not confirmed. I can't confirm this, but that's what he said, and that's what some other people believe, so I don't know. I put that in there. I want to be complete because it might mean something to the viewer who has their own ideas about this. So I'm hoping to cover enough words that it satisfies you as well. And, and I put in enough words. If not, you add those words yourself and you can look through the tables. By the way, the tables are always available to you. If you look in the description of your video right here that you're watching, you'll see there's a link to download all these tables on the tables that I work with onto your phone, computer, to print out. I hope you do print them out. That's the best way. And have them, on your phone or your computer, but definitely print it out if you can. These are really handy to have. So they're always available to you, okay? And we can use them later. Right now, we don't have to worry about them. We're worried about word lists today. And we'll go through everything. All the work will be done for you. I'm really just concentrating on the words and how you pick the words yourself. So you can see how it works for the future programs. Okay? Epstein would claim to work only with billionaires, those of high status. Yeah, that happened early in his career, I believe, right? After Bear Stearns, he was saying that he only works with clients who make $1 billion a year or more. I only work with the highest status people in the world. He went from there to the highest you could go. And that's what I remember seeing those videos where that was mentioned, where he would only work with people who made $1 billion a year or more. So that's been confirmed. So yeah, and that happened fast in his career, man. He went from the bottom right to the top. Now I'm only dealing with the best, right? He could do it and did it. So, what can you say? He actually did it. Epstein started a nonprofit organization, very true, and donated a lot of money to universities, particularly Harvard, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. It is also alleged he had Bill Gates donate $2 million to MIT and gave a $60,000 gift to one of its engineering professors, Seth Lloyd. Again, we have no idea why they're putting so much money into it, what's behind it. It's all mystery, right? So I thought I'd just mention that because it's like, why? I don't know. Maybe it's interesting to you. Maybe you got your own thoughts on that. It's also alleged that Bill Gates went to Epstein about getting a Nobel Peace Prize. Because remember, he was involved with Epstein as well. And then his wife left him. Anyway, as Epstein was said to have connections there at the Nobel Peace Prize place, both things were denied by Gates. Everything was denied by Gates. Everybody's denying everything. That's not uncommon either, is it? Prince Andrew denied ever meeting that blonde too, but we'll see. I think that's going to go to court, isn't it? Ghislaine's court thing is still coming up. Let's build a word list. Let's be fast. Let's get this word list done. Okay, we're going to do a word list here. This is where you get to pick ahead of me. I want you to pick which words you think are going to be at 100% that you can put your whole reputation on. Remember, you want to be about 100% sure that this is going to show up. So your 100% words, you have to be certain about 100%. Your tentative words are just as good. So don't feel bad if you only come out with one word on the 100. That one word is better than nothing, right? The tentative list is for after. After you've cleared out some of the suspects, now you want to fine tune it. You want to go and look at some of the other things that you know were going on, but didn't, that were just, there were still some gray areas and tentative, but we're still strong, right? And that will help you to weed out further people. Because looking at his chart, you can start to fill in some blanks of more things that were going on, as you'll see as we continue. So try to pick 100% or tentative words. Just write down your 100% words or put a tick beside it, right? Okay, we'll kind of go through it. And we're also going to do the chart as well. So we'll be doing the chart and these words as we go along and kind of looking at it to see how you work out, okay? So the first list, let's get them up there. You'll see here, math, physics, finances, blah, 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 blah. Write down the status and power. I've made some notes myself here. You don't even have to pay attention. You can go by your own knowledge of what you know about this guy. I was concerned with math, physics, and finances, his own finances. And I had to put down other people's finances too, just to cover my bases, because he might have a lot of involvement with other people's money, such as Leslie Wexner, for instance. Maybe he's focused on other people's money. So I put down that, because he has a huge thing to do with math, right? That's what his gig is. That's how he's making all this money. It's through math, right? And he was supposedly a genius. So for math, what are you putting? 100% or tentative, right? 1, 2, 3. Okay, you should pick these out. Math, I put 100%. I want to see it. Because his whole business is based on that. He's a genius. It's got to be there. It's got to be there. It's got to stick out, right? I'm sure of it. I have to be sure of it. It's just too prominent. That's his whole business is based on this. He skipped grades. He's known as a mathematical genius. Physics is something he took, but is it his main gig, or is he just good at math? Because math is physics is math, and vice versa. It's just a type of math, right? Kind of. So physics I put there too, and you'll know physics. It tells you automatically who's ruling, which astrological ruling planets are there. So in math, it's Saturn. In physics, it's Uranus and Saturn. So I'm going to pick math as my 100%. I'm going for Saturn more than anything. That's where I'm putting my money, on Saturn. You could put Saturn and Uranus, but you still have to feel 100% about one or both. Okay? Or tentative, you're going to look at it later and kind of work with it a bit. Bit of gray area there. You want to, kind of, contemplate that a bit more. Finances. His own, was he completely obsessed with his own finances? And your own finances there, you've noticed it's a Taurus, Venus, and second house as the astrological symbols in whatever house. And I can tell you now that the second house deals with your own assets, money in the bank or properties, including his island, all of his assets, every asset he has. His Rolex watch is part of that second house. You know what I mean? So was he concerned with his own properties, okay, and stuff like that? Now, finances, other people's money. You can put 100% for both. What are you picking for finances? 100% or tentative? It's up to you. Finances, was he concerned mainly with other people's money? Is that where he was coming from and just really concerned with other people's money? Maybe, yeah. I mean, if I think of Leslie Wexner and stuff, he was really using his money from what I understand and became really rich, but the rest is shrouded in mystery and kind of ends there. So, are you picking it? Okay. Other people's money. Now let's cover them in the chart. Let's take a look. Let's pull this chart up and take a look at some of these words. First, math. We picked 100%, right? Is it there? Okay. Let's pick it out. Yes. Math is ruled by Saturn. Where do we see Saturn? Saturn's up there with Libra. You can see Saturn in Libra. Okay, as an aspect, it's only a few degrees away from Neptune, forming a conjunction, what we call a conjunction. And you don't have to know about that right now. I'm going to do an actual film on that, so you can just kind of follow along right now. That means that these two planets, Saturn and its accompanying Neptune, as you can see circled up there, they're working together, right? And depending how the two operate, whether is how they work and get along. In this sense, math, Saturn, is being affected by Neptune. And if we look at it in a positive way, Neptune rules intuition, right? Let's get Neptune up there just for a second as a planet. You'll see there Neptune, dreamy, imaginative, receptive, elusive, emotional, fanciful, mysterious. I'm surprised I didn't put deceptive there, whatever. On a negative end, it can be deceptive, right? On a criminal end. That would be in your correspondences of your planets, you would find it, okay? But as a planet itself, it's very intuitive. So what you mean, so what it's saying is telling us that his math is intuitive. He's intuitive with math. And that's interesting because he was able to do things with either the stock market or certain numbers, whatever he did for these companies, they were very happy with him. And he could do things that other people couldn't, right? But that's not good enough. Let's look for more connections to that math thing, because that's just Saturn in Neptune in Libra. And what is Libra? That's a sign dealing with partnerships, associations, and stuff like that, and agreements. It's not really a business. Business would be more the 10th house, which is next to it. It's in the 11th house. The 10th house is where business is as far as the house is concerned. They say, I'm going to your business tomorrow. Is it open 9 to 5? He doesn't really run a business. He's not really showing that business kind of thing. He's in the 11th house of acquaintances and stuff, being introduced to various people. He's working on partnerships or agreements. It's on a different level already, right? But let's continue. What else do we have going on with Saturn? Math. We want to clear this up because this is a biggie. We have Mercury. His mental mind is in Capricorn. Business, big business, the highest level. Capricorn is status, princes, kings, blah, blah, blah. Let's get that chart up just so you can see right now is the meanings of Capricorn as a sign is vocation, boss, work status, mother, employer. It goes on like that, governmental institutions. If you look up the various correspondences for Capricorn, then you get an eyeful. Let's take a look at that just for a second because Capricorn's going to play a big role for us. Boss, vocation, authority figures, controlling, fame, businesses, awards. You go down the list, there's notoriety, status, power. You saw this a lot with Ghislaine Maxwell last week, right? High status, he's going for it too, right? They're kind of on a par that way. But they're both looking for, they only want to hobnob with the highest. He only wants to work with the highest levels of Wall Street and people who make $1 billion or more. He hangs out with presidents and so on and so forth. So it's fitting. He's got Mercury in Capricorn square to Neptune. This is another angle. It's 90 degrees away, so they're connected. And not only is the Mercury, his mental mind, connected, but so is his whole personality and his being, his individuality is connected to Saturn and Neptune as well. So there's a lot of energy, of business energy. The Sun and Mercury, right beside each other, in Capricorn for big business, is connected to Saturn and Neptune through the square aspect. So here we're looking at a guy whose mental mind is attached to math, and he has an intuitive mathematical bent of mind. That's what Mercury in Capricorn, Mercury square Saturn conjunct Neptune. That's what it's saying, because remember, the math was made intuitive by Neptune. So his Mercury is connected to math, as made intuitive because it's square not just to Saturn but to Neptune. And the Sun next to it is also square Saturn and Neptune. So what that means is all four of them are working together. This is very important. All four of these planets are working together. The Sun and Mercury in Capricorn, big business, square to Saturn and Neptune in Libra especially. I'm very concerned with that. In terms of the houses, That's based on the time of birth. Apparently, Jeffrey was born at 3:15 in the morning. I have no proof of that, by the way. So one part of me, when I'm talking about the houses, is going, maybe. I'm really looking at the planet in the sign, right? Because that's something I can count on if it's not the moon and moving too fast. But I will take the houses into consideration because I'm assuming it's correct. But I really want to lay a lot of pressure and a lot of weight on the planet in the sign. So Sun and Mercury in Capricorn, very strong, squared over to Saturn and Neptune. That's where his genius is. That's playing a major role in his life. This kind of tells you what his mind is like, overall, right? So he's very down to earth. He has set ways. He's very earthy. That because the Capricorn is a earth sign, a big earth sign. It's known as a cardinal sign. It's the big earth sign. He's got the Sun and Mercury. His whole thinking patterns are very set and structured. And he's connected to math and intuition. That tells his whole business. His whole business is right locked into those 4 planets. But that means something else too. Remember that word preferential? He's a preferential offender, according to the profilers. That's where your preferential is. The Sun and Mercury in Capricorn play such a big role. And it's squared to Saturn, which is itself full of structure. And then you have Neptune coming in going, here's a little intuition for your math to put you over the top. So he's able to work with math in a very intuitive way that put him above and beyond other people. Made him a genius, yes. So everything's in there. Physics, if you picked 100%, fine. You still got Saturn in there. But physics does not play a big role in this. Math is the one big winner, as we can see, with Saturn conjunct Neptune. If you're looking at Uranus, he's way over there in the 8th house of other people's money. Uranus is unstable, by the way, as a planet. But insofar as being futuristic, his mind is still in there. You have Mercury in Capricorn opposite Uranus in Cancer. Okay, it plays into it a little bit, but not big enough. That doesn't really answer your question to whether he's using physics to base his business on and his genius. His genius is actually coming out with Saturn. Saturn conjunct Neptune, squared over to Mercury and the Sun in Capricorn. Much stronger than the Mercury opposite Uranus in Cancer. Okay. So if you picked 100% for math, great. Now, finances, his own finances, right? Did you pick 100% for that? Okay, if you did, you win. I didn't pick it because I wasn't really sure because, like I say, his whole financial thing is shrouded in mystery and deception. So now I can't count on his business in any which way because I can't trust anything, right? Which is the truth. It's all, even to the magazines that talked about him before he became a sex offender, they'd always introduce him as the man of mystery. Who is this rich financier named Jeffrey? This mystery man. They always referred to him as the mystery man. He remained a mystery and concealed a lot of his work for good reason because it was based in deception. We think of fraud and different things were going on. We'll come into that later. But he is definitely shrouded in mystery. So finances, I had to put tentative. I don't know if you did. But the second house comes out very strong for his own finances, his own assets. If you look there, what do we have in the second house? The Sun and Mercury. That's where his business is coming in, right? And it's attached to that money over that Saturn and Neptune. Remember, all 4 working together all the time. So always keep those 4 planets all kind of working together all the time, especially in terms of business. Okay, because that's going to play a major role. That's his whole business right there in those 4 planets. So, second house, is he really concerned with his own assets and stuff? Oh, yeah. Huge. And he's got it very much under control, shown by Capricorn, which is structured, very strong. Only the upper crust, thinks big, the biggest. It's always on the biggest thinking level. So this goes for his own finances. And that covers his own money, his properties, his Rolex, all of his assets are wrapped up in that. So yes, he does consider that hugely important. So if you did put that as 100%, okay, you win, but you took a big chance. Here, okay? So because of that mysterious side of him, we don't actually know what's going on with his business. Really, in truth, we're still waiting to hear just how he did all that. and it's up in the air. Okay, business for profits. Profits that we do with that. Finances other people's money. What'd you put for that? Did you think it was 100% for dealing with other people's money? Well, I did it tentative again because I don't know actually what's going on with his finances. Like I said, I don't know. Everything's up in the air. We're all kind of waiting to hear. He might. Okay, so if you put it down to 100%, let's take a look at the 8th house. You got Uranus, which is chaos and disorder. He might benefit, but it doesn't seem to be his usual steady income from other people's money. He's doing something else. He's got other things on the go. Uranus is okay, but it's chaos and disorder. It's not stable. You know, these are the people that if it's relating to your business, you're up one day, you're bankrupt the next. Anything can happen. And that did happen to him, obviously, with the crimes. He's lost everything, including his life, possibly. So, you get a little bit there, but it's not strong enough really to hold on to because it is Uranus, it is unstable, it's all over the place, it's unpredictable, and it's unorthodox. He's a predictable person. He's preferential, right? So finances other people's money? Not really. That's not his thing. He's doing something else. He's got other plans, and it might involve other people's money. I mean, it always does. No matter what business you open, somebody's got to buy your chocolate bar. Doesn't mean you're obsessed with other people's money, right? Somebody's got to buy it. Somebody has to spend their money on your stuff or your services. Okay? It doesn't mean you're obsessed with other people's money. Right? Because other people always have to buy your stuff. Okay? So it's all in the way you're looking at it. So hopefully you didn't pick that as 100%. Or the other one, because we just don't know. Right? Okay, profits from business. Aquarius, Uranus, 11th house. Is he making profits from business? Well, he's obviously making a profit. But this tells you a bit more of his profits. So if you put 100% on there, well, I'm not really sure what you were... It depends on where you were coming from. Okay? Everybody's hopefully making a profit from their business. The corner store is hoping they're making a profit from their business too. So the 11th house, does that play a big role in his business? Right? And it does. It does show up. I put it as tentative, again, because I don't really know what's going on with his business. But later when we look at it as a tentative, we're going to see a very active 11th house where he makes his profits from business. It has to do with partnerships and agreements in math, obviously. Saturn conjunct Neptune in the 11th house in Libra, which is your partnerships and agreements and stuff like that. Interesting. So that's going to be a pretty strong tentative later that we might want to come back to, right? But let's continue. We were only interested in 100% today. Okay, real estate, general or for profit? What are you going to pick? Okay, think about that. Is he interested really in real estate and in a general form, like he's buying up, housing and keeping an eye on housing and the fluctuation of how much money he's going to make, and if he sells it in a year, maybe I'll open up an apartment building with my billions of dollars and make more income from, a high-end apartment building, stuff like that. General real estate, houses, maybe buy up some houses and have people rent them out or something. Who knows? Commercial properties. He didn't do any of that from what I can understand. So I don't know if you want to put 100% for that. That's up to you. Real estate for profit. I don't know. I put tentative again. I don't know about you guys. Did you go ahead and do that one? Because you can go ahead in this list and start putting your 100%. Real estate for profit. Possible, but I don't know. I'm not really sure because I didn't see him sell anything. I just see him gathering more properties all around the world, but never selling any of them. So I don't know about profit, but I haven't seen him do any profit stuff. I know he's getting profit somehow, but I don't know how. So I didn't put tentative. I put tentative for that. So let's take a look at that. 11th, the 4th house and stuff, that's the moon. Okay, that rules. You're looking at their real estate in general, ruled by Cancer. The moon, 4th house and Saturn, that's the astrological stuff. I can look at it. Okay, his math is involved a bit in there for general real estate, a little bit. But as the word goes, is he really interested in real estate? I didn't see him really doing much except like buying mansions to make himself look amazing. And the moon is in Aries, which shows a very active kind of place and not so comforting. That's like a place of a lot of action and stuff going on there. So there is some comfort, but there's a lot of action, entrepreneurial stuff going on. That's the moon in Aries, Aries being a fire sign, starting up new projects. he might. I don't. It's not very strong. There's more to his general real estate, I think. But if you picked 100%, there's a bit there for you, but not much. I'm not sure you'd want to be separating suspects with that. Real estate for profit, that's more Leo, Sun, 5th house. I'm covering all my bases. Leo's the 5th sign, rules the 5th house, and the Sun is the ruling planet of Leo. I'm mostly concerned with the 5th house for this. And you got Jupiter, the planet of gain in the executive, in Taurus, which rules the 2nd house. And that brings us back to his Sun and Mercury in Capricorn. That's pretty important right off the bat. And it's in the 5th house of profit. So there is definitely something there for profit. Okay. It's connected to profit. It's pretty strong because that's connecting you back to the 2nd house where his business is and stuff like that. So it's all connected. That's interesting. Okay. So if you pick that for 100%, yeah, there is something there. But what would it be and how would you look for suspects? That'd be another one of your considerations. You wouldn't know about Jupiter and maybe in Taurus. You'd have to pick something that amounts to that. And so you'd have to put a few different categories in there to say, I want all the people with maybe Jupiter, maybe have this in the 5th house. That's going to bring in profit. And you'd have to kind of make guesswork and then separate the suspects. That can be very dangerous too. So you're hoping that when you do a 100% words that you're going to come down to one planet name, and that can be done and is done all the time. For instance, math, that's one planet, Saturn. That's a single planet. That's nice when you can get things down to a single planet. Really nice. Anyway, or a single sign or something like that. That helps. So you'd have to figure out what exactly is the profit in that 5th house because you wouldn't know about Jupiter and Taurus in the 5th house. You just have to put something that's going to bring profit to that or represent profit or just have lots of, And another thing to think about is you're not going to have access to their times of birth. When you're doing a bunch of people, they're not coming with times of birth. This is a little bonus for us. You're going to have to work with just the planets and the signs, not the houses. The houses are not going to exist in the majority of charts that we do. So they're quicker to work with, but you have a lot less to work with. But you'll still see how you can do it and work it well, and it's still powerful. You don't need that time of birth in most cases. You can fill in the blanks yourself. Okay, let's continue. Real estate for profit. So hopefully you put that as a tentative because we don't really know too much about his how he's dealing with business. You win if you put it, though, because there is something strong there. Persuasive. Is he persuasive as a person or is he persuasive using his money? I'm not sure. Like I said, if you remember the prior programs, you want to go by personality stuff too much because his mother says one thing, his best friend says something else, and the neighbor says something else. Was he persuasive for just being a persuasive person? Or was he persuasive saying, yeah, I know you're working with this bank doing this and you've already got a financier doing your money. But if you come over to my side and let me do your money, this is what I can do for you. And he puts something down. The guy goes, you can do that? Yep. And it's like, okay, you've talked me into it. You've persuaded me. I'm going to go with your business then, Epstein. You're going to make me that much more money? I'll take you. You've talked me into it. You've persuaded me. That's money talking. So who knows? So I put that as tentative. I'm not actually interested in that as a word, but it has been said about him that he's persuasive. So I'm going to look at that tentatively later, maybe. Not even now. I'm not even interested right now. I'm skipping that word. Actually, you can see how important that is to me. Deceptive. Deceptive. Interesting. Yeah, I put that as my 100. Did you? I'm thinking 100. Because everything about that guy's deceptive. His whole business deceptive. He's deceptive as a person. Everything. This guy is one big ball of deception. If anything, that is probably the most outstanding word I can think of as much as his math. Math and deception to me are on a par. That's how deceptive this guy's life is. And how mysterious. Mysterious and deceptive. Same planet rules it. It's just shrouded in mystery. And mystery is Neptune. And you'll notice the two planets there. I put Neptune first, Mercury second. Mercury can be looked into because Mercury can be involved in aspects that make it deceptive, can be involved in secretive signs like Scorpio. You never know. But those are the two planets. My first one is Neptune because that rules deception as a planet, where Mercury could be deceptive depending on the signs and aspects. Let's go right to that in the chart. Now, we know we have Saturn conjunct Neptune. That's not deceptive. That's intuitive. Right? That's not deceptive. Those two planets aren't going to be deceptive. If you just had Saturn conjunct Neptune, that's not deceptive. What's deceptive? The Sun and Mercury in Capricorn are square to Neptune. That's deceptive. Mercury square Neptune is someone who's deceptive, is untruthful, or at least you got to be really careful when you talk to this person. They may even deceive themselves. There's deception and misunderstandings and confusion, deliberate blindsiding, all things kind of. And as his Sun has his individuality as a person, he's also deceptive. So it's a strong deceptive trait in this guy. It's not just his mental mind. It's also in his very fiber of his being. This guy is deceptive and tricky. He may also have a good sense of humor and be a bit imaginative with that too. He may have a good sense of humor. He's also got a very serious business side, more so than the humor. He's Sun and Mercury in Capricorn square Saturn. There's a serious side to this guy, very critical thinking, stuff like that going on. He's very set. He's preferential. Yes. So deceptive I took as a 100%, and we do get that in spades. Sun and Mercury square Neptune, nothing more needs to be said. That is highly deceptive. Let's move on. Status and power. What do you think? 100%? Tentative? What's it going to be? I put 100% because his total career, he wants nothing to do with anybody making less than $1 billion. He only hobnobs with presidents, princes, and the highest order of everything. And that happened fast in his career. From a dropout to being a teacher at a prestigious school, right to Wall Street. Boom, 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 rich. Now he owns all these islands. That's fast motion, right? And he's got contacts from all around the world. Business, big business. He is very concerned with status and power. And he's got all those girls, of course, strewn around him on the floor. He acts like he's a king. You know, if you've ever seen him, even the picture up there. Is that not a little bit of a cockiness in there? Can you see it? Yeah. Status and power. Let's take a look. Capricorn, Saturn, Pluto's in there for power, possibly, and the 10th house. So we're going for I'm covering all the bases astrologically, okay, just for the sake of completeness, of course, because I wouldn't know until I looked at the chart, right? So I want to include Pluto, because Pluto as a planet is also rules power, overbearing, domineering. It can be like that, right? I want to make sure I get that in there so I don't miss out. Otherwise, screw up my list. So all those things that can relate to power are mentioned. So you can trust me on these things. Power. And now here we have the Sun and Mercury in Capricorn. And Capricorn is the sign of power. You remember that before? Let's bring up those correspondences really quickly again for Capricorn. Take a look at these various correspondences for Capricorn. Boss, vocation, authority figures. Go down the list. You got notoriety, status, power, president. You go all through it. You got royalty, public status, blah, 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 political party and power. Okay, let's get back really quick. Hopefully you've printed out these lists. As I say, you can print them out. There's the link right down there in the description of this video to put it on your phone, your computer, to print it out. Grab those tables. They're right there. The link is right there in my description for this video and all the videos. Well worth it to have it in front of you. That way you can pause it, look through, make some decisions. Status and power. Did you put 100%? Because it is 100% in there. It's amazingly in there. Not just Capricorn, but its ruling planet Saturn, which is mentioned, is also included. Sun and Mercury in Capricorn, square Saturn, right? That's its ruling planet, Saturn. And of course, all four planets working together, as you know, for the math and the genius and business, how the whole thing operates. And how he's able to do what he does is in those four planets. The answers to all your questions in regards to his business is probably captured in those four, as you'll see. So let's continue. We got a lot to do. Anyway, I hope I'm on time. What's the time here? 49 minutes? Oh, I got about 10 minutes. I want to get through some of this. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Sorry about that. I sometimes go off on tangents. Anyway, status and power. If you picked 100%, you get it 100%. And that's one of the ones I would have definitely picked. I want to see a guy with status because he was all about that as a person, his personality, everything he picked, the people he hobnobbed with, everything about this guy is the highest level of status that he wants to be seen as a king, literally a prince. He himself wants to be a prince. Okay? That's what it means. He wants to be seen as the big guy. Okay, let's continue. Down here, now I'm going to flip through some words here a little quicker because they relate to the crimes and stuff like that. We don't have to see my personal notes. You can read my personal notes, but whatever. You don't need them. Okay? Sex trafficking minors. That's what he's accused of. Sex trafficking. Now, Scorpio, Pluto, 8th house. Sex trafficking. Did you put 100% or tentative? Come on, pick it, because I want to cover it. Okay, I hope you picked it. I put tentative for mine, and there's a reason. His sex trafficking, when you think of sex trafficking, if you're involved with true crime, you've watched a lot of true crime movies, and you're watching movies on sex trafficking, what does sex trafficking actually generally entail? It generally entails strangers paying for sex, right? It often involves a pimp or somebody forcing you into business and stuff like that. So generally, sex trafficking involves abductions, forcing you into prostitution of some kind or trafficking, It also involves captivity and, keeping someone against their will. So forcible confinement, abduction. Drugs often can come into it, pretty heavy drugs, because you want to keep them sedated on like heroin and stuff. Makes them more obedient and compliant and dependent upon you. So they may not want to try to escape. They need that next fix. A lot of things go on. And another thing that often goes on in sex trafficking in the real world is murder. After the girls have used up their welcome and nobody wants them anymore, they don't let them loose. In fact, only less than 2% of women who are involved in sex trafficking or victims of sex trafficking are able to escape or are released because they don't want them going to the cops. Generally, they are taken out with they're given an overdose of drugs and then put out somewhere like a junkie, because they are a junkie. They're made into junkies, and that helps them later when the police look, it's just a junkie. They don't really look into that too much often because they just feel it's an overdose. So they do that, or they'll put them into a snuff film on the dark net, make more money off them and get rid of them that way. True enough. Is that what Jeffrey is doing? Is that how he operated his business? Did he have strangers coming over and he had a girl in room number 3 going, yeah, where's the money? $2,000? Okay, Prince Andrew, the blonde's in room number 3. You got an hour or you got 2 hours. He didn't run it like that. So you really want to treat that as a 100%? Or do you think he ran his business in a different way? And if he runs it in a different way, then it's going to be in a different area of the chart. It's not sex trafficking as we generally think of it, right? That's why words are so tricky. I put it as tentative. And I do not see him running his sex trafficking operation like that. I see him doing it the way the girls say, like with gifts, saying, welcome. Here's some hors d'oeuvres. The girls are entertainment for you, like hors d'oeuvres themselves. I see him doing that and functioning, giving these people, girls, to curry favor, or to blackmail, or to do something else with on a different level. Let's take a look at the 8th house. Take a look at the 8th house. What do you got in there? Uranus. What is Uranus? Chaos. Opportunist. Taking advantage of opportunities. All those things that are, what was it again? Situational offenders. He's a preferential offender. So his sex trafficking doesn't run along Uranus in 8th house lines or Uranus in Cancer, if we're going to remove the house itself and just go by that. And if we are going to remove the houses, we've got nothing in Scorpio to help us. We only have Pluto in Leo. And, Pluto is the ruling planet. And that's for power and overbearing. And, and Leo does rule children. Okay? But that would be very tentative for me too, because Pluto doesn't speak volumes. Mercury in Capricorn quincunx Pluto. He wasn't that like that. That is describing a different mentality towards the girls, a different mentality of how you would run a sex trafficking business. So I'm removing him for myself. I'm removing Scorpio, Pluto, 8th house altogether as being how he functioned as a sex trafficker. I believe he might have sex trafficked, but not in the typical way, in other words. So I spent a little bit of time on that word because that's one of the key words that really show how deceptive these words can be when you're picking out a keyword list. You might have put 100% for sex trafficking because that's what he did. But the typical sex trafficker, that's how he ran it? Not at all. So you don't want to look at it like that. He didn't even involve strangers with those girls. Strangers weren't allowed to come over and hand Jeffrey money and go upstairs and sleep with any of those girls. They were there specifically for the high-end people. They were gifts. So it's not a sex trafficking on that sex trafficking level. And that's important to see through Jeffrey's eyes and how he conducted business. Now, sexual libido, what do you think? This guy, supposedly he had how many girls a day? Up to 3 girls a day? 6 days a week, maybe even 7 days a week. This guy's got like a turnstile of girls. How do you feel about sexual libido? Should it be there? Does it have to be there? Are you willing to stake your whole reputation on it? Right? You got it? I put 100%. I'm going for it. I think sexual libido, that many girls, I trust those girls because there was more than one of them that said it over and over, that this guy was a complete animal like that. He's always girls coming in and out all day long. That's a libido. That takes a pretty strong libido because he's not like a teenager anymore, Epstein. He's a mature man and he's still got this massive libido. I want to see that sticking out. I think that has to be there. There's no other way. Because these aren't women for other people. They are coming to him 3 times a day. Not to anyone else. They're coming to him 3 times a day. Not including the orgies or the sleepovers with Prince Andrew and whatnot. I mean, just on a regular basis. Okay, so sexual libido. You want to see it in the chart? Where is it? Do you see it? You might know the planets well enough. You might want to look at the planet of courtships and stuff. And you can see where I've put the answers there. For sexual libido, the things you have to look at. Right? All the things. Now, Mars is the planet of the male. The male libido is ruled as a planet. Mars rules your libido as a planet. It's your masculinity and your get up and go. Right? What's his name call it on that? Anyway, no, I was thinking of that Austin Powers or whatever his name is. Whatever he called it. I forget. It's been too many years. But anyway, that's what you're talking about, that thing. Okay, that's Mars primarily. Now, I put in everything just to cover all my bases. I want to look into Venus, Scorpio, which rules the sex act itself. I want to check out, see who's in Scorpio, the 8th house, stuff like that. Pluto, okay, I included him just because it is the ruling planet of Scorpio, and I'm covering all my bases. The same with the next list. Leo, Sun, 5th house. Leo's the 5th sign. Rules the 5th house. The sun is the ruling planet for Leo. So I'm just going to cover all those just to cover my bases. But we find it right away in his chart. With Mars, that's the first planet you should be looking at because that does rule libido, right? So that's who I went to first. No, it doesn't have to be there. It could be in those other areas. But look at this with Mars. Venus, the planet of courtships and attraction, conjunct Mars. They are welded together, just like Saturn and Neptune were up there in the 11th house. They are functioning as one all the time. They are interacting all the time. So Venus, his attractions, is put on fire, literally. It's being charged up and on fire. And it's on fire from Mars, the planet of war and aggression. And go, 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 go. Not that it's going to be violent like that. It's just aggression in action. Libido. It sticks out like a sore thumb. And look at the sign that it's in. That tells you a little bit more. It's in Pisces. Pisces is the last sign. It's a water sign. It's dreamy, it's romantic, it rules the subconscious. But in this case, there's a certain word that came to my mind right away, his fantasies, his imagination. If Pisces is a water sign, which deals with the imagination, the subconscious and stuff. So this thing is actually in his fantasies playing out. So he's got this fantasy thing going. It also shows who he's attracted to. Mars is attracted to Venus. So his Mars is attracted to women, young girls, Venus. In Pisces, he likes the softer girl. He likes to be the man. There's the softer girl. They're all lying around the floor. That's starting to fit in with more going on as we're going to come into it. But I just take note of those things. His libido is in Pisces, which is emotional. His fantasy is in his emotions, which gets him excited. That's what gets him excited. It's probably fantasies, playing it out. And the young girl thing, we'll come into it later. So let's mosey on. We got to be hurrying here. Where are we? We're at 59 minutes. Oh, we got a boogie here. Okay, we got a really boogie here. Taking too much time. Okay. So that was sexual libido. We see that. Child prostitution. 100% or tentative. What's it going to be? Okay, well, I put that as tentative because I'm not sure. Just like with sex trafficking of minors, child prostitution, he's renting them out, these girls, because that's what it means, renting them out, hiring. Well, okay, he's hiring them. There is child prostitution. He's hiring them. But on what level is he working and stuff like that? Is it the typical child prostitution? Is he going out and procuring? Well, yes and no. He's got people going out and bringing girls home to him. So there is something there. There was child prostitution. You could have put 100%, but you know what you're looking for, what type of business he's running. I put it as tentative because I'm not actually sure what angle he's coming from. Is it business or if it's a rap? I probably should have put 100 maybe, but let's take a look. So we got Leo, the sun, fifth house again. Ooh, maybe. He's got Jupiter, but that's more business. That's more business. Jupiter in Taurus is an earth sign. It deals with money and possessions, as we learned later. The fifth house can be romance, but it's also real estate for profit. And it looks more business oriented there. So it's not very strong. Child prostitution. But if you look at Venus, that's interesting. Is Jupiter connected to Uranus? Okay. So if you look at Venus, Venus is conjunct Mars. We're going back to that libido thing. Okay, child prostitution. There's something there, but it's really not the typical child prostitution as we know it. There's something else going on there. Sure, he likes younger, but he's not seeing it as a prostitution. In the typical way, it's really not coming out very strong. So hopefully you left that as tentative because there's not much support there that you would go out there and look and try to eliminate suspects with that one. Okay? Even if he is guilty of it, seems to be he's not looking at it in the same way most people would look at child prostitution. Okay. Associates and partnerships and agreements. That was a biggie for me. How about for you? Partnerships and agreements. I think that's important, but are you going to give it 100%? What do you think? Do you want to give that 100%? That he's based more on partnerships and agreements than anything else? Like that is like totally huge with him? For me, I did pick it 100%, but just the way he was conducting business, it didn't seem like he ran a normal business that's open 9 to 5 or anything else. It seems like he was doing agreements with people. He's using kids. He's got hobnobbing, almost like Ghislaine Maxwell in that sort of sense. He's coming to, everything's kind of under the cover. He's just making tentative agreements. It's not right out in the open. It's shrouded in mystery, but it seems like he's doing tentative agreements that might be on the slide because they may be illegal. So I did want to see that. Okay, I put that as 100%. And that's ruled, of course, primarily by Libra and stuff. And if you look, you got Saturn, conjunct Neptune, his math and stuff in Libra in the 11th house. That is very much doing business on that level of partnerships and agreements. It's fortified and made strong by the Sun and Mercury in Capricorn. Remember that strong business, the 4 planets working together. The 4 planets are working in Libra, in partnerships and agreements. And there was kind of a hint I gave earlier, I think. But anyway, you probably caught on to that. Partnerships and agreements, I'd be all over that because I think, that's the level he's working on. He doesn't have a business that you can go into 9 to 5. We don't even know what his business is. There's something else going on. He's doing things on a whole other level. What level would that be? Well, partnerships and agreements is one of the other few levels I can get to in a chart. When you own a business, you either own the structure, you're doing business on different levels. His had to be one or the other, kind of. It's either going to be heavy-duty Capricorn, or it's not service-oriented like Virgo in the 6th house. So it must be like partnerships, agreements on that high level. Possibly like that, yeah. Okay, so that's what I jumped on. I jumped on the partnerships and agreements. I put my John Henry on that. I can do that because I've been doing it for so many years. If you didn't do that, don't worry. That would come out big anyway. When you come to your tentative, you would see how big it is, and you would go, I can do another search and I can eliminate some more suspects, I think, based on this finding, based on how this is running. You might find later that you might want to go for that. Massage next. Massage. How do you feel about it? 100% tentative. Okay, I put 100% for that. I know it's in the chart somewhere. I got to find it still with using astrological symbolism, but I know it's there because it's part of his MO. It was used over and over and over and over. It sticks out like a sore thumb. So I put 100% for that. So how was I going to find it? Well, I put two kind of categories. I put the Taurus, Venus, second house, right? Remember, I'm covering all my bases. Taurus is the second sign, rules the second house, and its ruling planet is Venus. So I put all three to be safe. Same with Leo, Sun, fifth house for the same reason. So I could have put another one in there that involves getting a massage for reasons of sore muscles, like your health. So this is for construction workers, people who have torn ligaments, or bodybuilders. They're always sore, so they need muscles to get rid of the knots. That's not Jeffrey Epstein. He's not out there working out and jogging and getting all, or in construction, hurting his arm. It's all tired from shoveling. So I eliminated that possibility. I hope you don't mind. I just took that out. I left two possibilities first. Okay? If you're going to go for 100%. I left Leo, Sun, fifth house. That's for people who go to spas and stuff and want their face dipped in seaweed or something. Just, pampered and stuff. That's the one end of massage. And the other end of massage was people who got a massage because they find it erotic. They like it. It's stimulating. They like the feel of a hands on you or something. Well, especially him. He likes the younger girls with hands on him. But he's very hands-on. He likes that feel. He likes that. He even gets Ghislaine to do it. So that would come under Taurus, Venus, second house. Venus is a planet of attractions and stuff, okay? Here it's in Taurus, which it rules. Venus also rules Libra, which I'm a Libra. And it's more cerebral. The erotic stuff always happens in stuff in the mind. And then, it starts there. It's all cerebral. Whereas Venus in Taurus is a physical attraction. Something to physical ideas, not really the mental mind ideas. It's going for the physical. So it wants the hands-on, it wants to feel the touch, it likes that. It's very physical, right? And it's for people who are attracted to types of cars or something. It's very physical things. This guy wants the physical body, and he's attracted to the physical body, physical features, which might have been why he's picking the young girls too, and for other reasons in his chart, because of the youthful body. So it's very physical. So I put Taurus, Venus, second house. I'm going for 100%. And for my 100%, I'm going for the Taurus, Venus, second house rather than the getting your face dipped in seaweed. Because he didn't get many spas and stuff like that that I read. I only heard about massages and young girls. So it seems to me that it's an erotic thing. That's what I go for. But I'm going for massage. And I didn't rule out Leo, Sun, fifth house. I'm still going to look at it, obviously. So we look at it, we get the second house, and we get Venus. We start to say, oh, okay. Second house, and then Capricorn, taught to the business. What else? Venus conjunct Mars in Pisces. So Venus conjunct Mars in the third house in Pisces. That's pretty strong. Venus conjunct, I'm looking for that Venus conjunct Mars. That's his libido tied into it too. So he has a real connection there. But in the fifth house, we see there's something there too. We see Jupiter in Taurus in the fifth house, but Jupiter's business. It's not sensual, really. That's more business again. So there's nothing really in the fifth house of the sun that's going to help you too much. Yeah. In Leo, do we have anything in Leo? The Pluto, but that's not really Saturn. Yeah, that's not really attached to anything with Venus or anything. Your strongest one is Venus conjunct Mars in Pisces. It looks like that's part of his fantasy. And that he likes the touch of it and stuff. And the physicality that way. He's a strong Capricorn, Earth. Okay. He does have some attraction there to Earth and stuff with Jupiter and Pisces, but Jupiter and Taurus. But I would go for the Venus conjunct Mars in Pisces. That's what it's going to bring you to. So I think Venus is the winner there. As far as massages go, Venus wins the day. Remember, you just wanted to check out all of them, and you didn't have to have a lot of them show up. Maybe it's one of them. In this case, I got Venus. That's the only one I'm really picking. Venus, because Venus is conjunct Mars in Pisces, which is his fantasy. So I think that had involved his fantasies a lot. And that's why I picked that. So that's kind of how I eliminated the other ones. Had to be one of them. Had to be in there. And I think Venus is it. So I picked 100% for that. Okay, cameras and spying. I put them as one of the same because I think he's doing that. But cameras. He's obsessed with cameras. Okay, when you're picking that for 100%. Now, We got to hurry, right? What do we add here? I got to finish this fast. Okay, we're on the last bit of the list here. Cameras. What do you think? 100% or tentative? Quick, 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 quick. Okay, cameras. Is he in? Okay, now the first planet you'll see is Mercury, which is curiosity and all this sort of stuff. That's for people who collect cameras. Oh, you got the new Minolta. I have the Canon something, something, something. What lens are you using? Do you have any filters on there? And they just talk cameras, cameras, cameras. That's for Mercury. For people who are doing filming, for making movies or for art or for other reasons that Jeffrey might be interested in, Neptune. More so than Mercury, who's curious about the cameras themselves. He's not interested. He wants to make sure the camera's working, I'm sure, but that's about as far as it goes, and that it's maybe high definition, but that's about it, and that it has audio. But insofar as collecting cameras, I never heard anything about that. So it's Neptune. He's got cameras. He's obsessed with cameras. We know that, right? Is it for security reasons? I don't know, but we just know he's got a ton of cameras. And that he's likely spying on people because these cameras are in almost every single room, probably even the bathroom. So the two kind of go in hand, don't they? Right? Cameras and spying. But are you going to give it 100%? Cameras and spying? Are you going to say spying 100%? You're sure he's spying on people? You know? We're obsessed with these cameras and audio cameras because of spying or whatever, you know, however you want to look at it. I put 100% yes. It's just too many cameras. Too many reasons. Spying. Yeah, this guy's got to be spying. He's got cameras in every blinking room. And you'll notice that they're not bringing him out in the courts because the powers that be are squashing it because of their power. You can imagine what's on those cameras. Yeah, well, I think you know, right? I think we all know, and they're just not going to bring it out. And we're not going to do anything about it. It's very sad, actually, the whole case. But anyway, it's filled with deception, even in the courts. I mean, just as deceptive as Epstein was. Blackmail. A lot of people think that he was filming these people for blackmail purposes. What are you going to do? You're giving that a 100%? You can look for blackmail? 100%. Or tentative. Okay? I put that as tentative because there's no proof. But that's the only reason. Yeah, there's very strong suspicions that why else would you need all that? But to blackmail. It just seems to be illogical. Yes, it does. But I just didn't do it. You might have, right? But anyway, let's take a look. What's going on with Neptune? Ooh, big things are going on with Neptune, connected with his business. Sun and Mercury in Capricorn for his business in second house, his income. Square to Neptune in Libra for partnerships. Major deception. If he is spying, it's definitely business oriented. Because Neptune is in Libra for the partnerships and agreements. Those agreements might be filled with deception. So if you did pick blackmail, I don't think you should because there was no proof. I think that was a bad deal. Because now you're like the judge and jury and you've said, no, it's blackmail because I know. I don't know how you know that because it hasn't come out yet for proof that he was blackmailed. Who's been blackmailed? Which person is saying he was blackmailed? Jeffrey Epstein's blackmailing me, and I'm glad he's dead. You know, you didn't have anybody saying that? Nope, nobody's come up and said he blackmailed me. Of course, they can't really do that because I was sleeping with young girls and he blackmailed me. Okay, so it might be there. Like I said, it's not a good word because you don't have the proof. I'm waiting for that to come out myself, and it will fit right in line with his business. It already fits in there. We already know that. It's already connected to his business through the Sun and Mercury and Capricorn square Neptune. Right? In Libra. So, don't be surprised if it comes out. And I wouldn't be surprised. But I didn't put it as my 100%. Okay. Now, next. Gifts given or gifts received. Did you give it 100% to one or the other or both? Or did you give tentative to one or the other or both? Now's your moment. Do it. We got to be fast here. I still want to do... We have 15 minutes. I've got to finish. We still want to compare Ghislaine and his chart, in Jeffrey's chart. Okay. I put tentative to both because I'm not really sure about his business. Everything's a mystery. Gifts received is meaningless. I just put that as a kind of a trick. This is based on him growing up all through life because it's in his birth chart. It'd be all his life. He's looking at everybody he meets. He's like, got a gift for me? You got a gift for me? I love gifts. Come on, everybody. Where's all my gifts? That seems like he'd be obsessed with getting gifts from everybody. So it doesn't really make sense, right? And if he's doing it for a business, gifts received? I'll give you this girl. Gifts, not money. Like he's not trafficking and getting money. It doesn't make sense. So I don't know if you use gifts received or whatever, but I threw that out completely. I'm not even looking it up. It's a waste of my time, kind of. Gifts given. He's giving gifts given. Not received, given. He's giving up gifts, because I wrote that because the girls have been saying that from day one, over and over. He's giving us his gifts, man. He's not like they're not paying. He's just providing us as an entertainment, and probably for business reasons later, to gain favor, to curry favor, whatever, or to blackmail or whatever else. Gifts given, I still put as tentative. I do want to look into it. I think it might be there, but I'm not putting it in 100%. And if you look to the second house, which it rules, the Taurus, Venus, second house, gifts. So here we have Jupiter in Taurus. Jupiter is very giving. That's the sign of giving and gain and stuff like that. Very important planet. It's in business. It's in the fifth house of entertainment and stuff. So that kind of supports it. And if you go over, there's, what else do we got here for gifts given? Venus conjunct Mars in Pisces. Venus conjunct Mars. Gifts given. Yeah, that doesn't really answer much there. Can't really run away with it. Second house has more. That's business. And it's connected to deception and all that. Remember the Sun and Mercury in Capricorn, square Saturn in Neptune. Gifts given, if they are given, it's going to be for business reasons, because Jupiter in Taurus is for business, and the Sun and Mercury in Capricorn for business, and the Venus conjunct Mars in Pisces is his own personal thing. Doesn't really have to do much with other people. Social travel, it's in the third house. If you're wondering about the third house, that's local travel, social activity, stuff like that. If they're in Florida, they'll probably get girls from around Florida. If they're in New York, he'll get some girls from around the local area there. It doesn't mean he's not going to take them on his plane and take them flying around. But just as in general, he's going to be doing a lot of social activity, a lot of local girls, wherever he's local. He's local in a lot of different places. So wherever he is, the girls in that area are probably going to come over. Unless they're in the plane. Then he has to take them in the plane. He has no choice, because they got to be in the plane with him. So that doesn't have much to do with anything. That's just coincidence. That's just circumstantial kind of. Okay, so where are we? Gifts given. Okay, pedophile. 100% or tentative? Hurry. 100% or tentative? Pedophile. Well, some people think of him as a pedophile. Me, not so much. If we look over the age of consent in the United States is as young as 16 in some states, 18 in others. He's going for people around 14. There's been some alleged victims that were 11 or 12, but unproven. I can't find proof that he was actually with an 11 or 12-year-old. I don't see them in court that I know of, unless you know something I don't. That's only tentative, and that's not proven. So I can't really use that. That's hearsay. I can't really put 100% on that anyway. So I'm not going to be concerned about that until I know for sure. I know for sure he's got 14 and above. For sure, 14 and above. He was with 14-year-olds. So 14-year-olds, is he a pedophile? Now, what is a pedophile? That's a person who's strictly attracted to young girls. He slept with Ghislaine. He slept with multiple other older women. So he's not really a pedophile. Why is he? Unless he's doing that for business, but I don't think he was back then. He wasn't really getting young girls back then. He sleeps with older women too. Okay, but he prefers younger ones. For whatever, the point is, pedophile is very misleading. So for me, that was more than tentative. I don't know if you put 100% for that. I tossed that. I'm tossing that one out completely, because age 14, well, if he's on one side of this, let's say that he's with a 14-year-old and everybody's looking at him like a pedophile, and in 14 he's into kids. Well, if he flies to Brazil, that child is no longer a child. That child is now an adult, and he can marry her. If he goes with that 14-year-old to Vatican City, the Pope will happily marry them, because that Pope is going to see her as an adult too, and not as child molestation. Because in Vatican City, the age of consent is 14. So he's not a pedophile in Vatican City. He's not a pedophile in Brazil. He's the husband, and that's his wife. Big difference. And that's a few places that have that. Colombia, as you can see on my notes here, if I've got them up. you can see that it's all of that, those places, right? Age of consent is 12 in Sudan. That's a bit. Age of consent is 13 in Niger and Saudi Arabia, Democratic Republic, wherever the heck that is. So there's different. So that's why pedophile, I kind of toss that. He's not a pedophile in my eyes. He doesn't really go for children. I do a lot of pedophiles in my crime book and stuff. He doesn't really go for the toddlers. He's going for the really young women. But they're women in Brazil. They are women in Colombia. And they are women in Vatican City. So like I said, take away your lens for the law of wherever you're living, because it might be 18. That makes him a pedophile. Or the age limit might be 18, and now you're going to look at him like a child. He can marry that person in other countries. So I toss that word out as a word that I don't want to use that, because I think that'll throw my profile off. I'm not concerned about that word. Fraud, what did you put? Sorry. Fraud. Tentative? Well, apparently he was involved in it and everybody knows, and it was like right out there. Plus he's got a huge deception and everybody knows there's some dirty dealings, fraud. I picked 100% for that because I'm convinced, he was involved in that Ponzi scheme. That's fraud right away. So we got some hardcore proof there. He wasn't charged for it, but he was involved. So fraud is Neptune. We've already covered the deceptiveness of Neptune in business. That's the Sun, Mercury in Capricorn business, squared in Neptune. He's highly deceptive in business, right? And the business is in partnerships and agreements. There's really a lot of deceptive stuff going on with money and math, because that's Saturn, remember, conjunct Neptune. And that's those 4 planets working together. Non-profit organization, 100% or tentative. We got to hurry. 100% or tentative, non-profit organization. I put tentative because it doesn't seem to play as a big role, like the biggest role, so I can't really start eliminating suspects based on people involved in a non-profit organization. So, but he may be involved in it, and it may be more part of what he might go for to gain more status or to do this or that, right? It does come into it. He did open it, and he does put a lot of money into it. So it seemed pretty important to him. For that, you would have to go to the 11th house. Now, even though if you picked out 100%, you kind of win, but you took too big of a risk. It shouldn't be 100% for a nonprofit organization. I don't really understand how his whole sex trafficking thing that he's being charged with is connected to a nonprofit organization, or that stands out so big that it's connected to all this stuff. It's just something to look at tentatively later to maybe fill in some more gaps, right? Of how he's doing conducting business and who he's conducting business with, and maybe even why. So it's something to look into, but I would know. Hopefully you didn't put it as a 100%. Sexual assault. What's it going to be? 100% or tentative, right? Sexual assault. What do you got? Me, I put tentative again because sexual assault, I'm so used to true crime. Sexual assault to me is so many different things. It can be pretty violent, obviously, to broken bones, to murder, to, all kinds of things. But I also realize that in the eyes, as far as a word, sexual assault could be somebody who's saying no, somebody too young to say no, intimidation, and how's Jeffrey using that? Is it sexual assault? Well, it's not sexual assault. If he's going with if he's in Brazil and they both make out, he didn't threaten her or anything like that. There's no gun to her head. There's no knife to her throat. Now, I realize there's some intimidation and stuff, but just kind of work with me here. Sexual assault. If he's in Brazil and they both make out, did he threaten her? He just offered some money and she took it, really. And she's seen as an adult. So you could have said no to the money and walked away. Then if he grabs you, physically holds you down and forces you, then it's sexual assault. So he kind of was sly about it. He slid into bed and said, just want to cuddle up. He did all these little things, but he wasn't too overt. So sexual assault, I put that as tentative because he never was really violent with them. He could have threatened a few in a way. I know Ghislaine did the same, just to make sure they don't go to the police, just covering their tracks. It's not sexual assault. He's not pounding them. He's got a knife to them. He's got pulling their hair, banging their head off the wall, He's not doing any of that sort of stuff. So I left that out myself. I don't know if you did, but sexual assault, I'm not going to even look for it right now because there's been no complaints of really that heavy-duty sexual assault. It's more surreptitious, sneaky, deceptive, putting them in a compromising situation where they don't say no because they're in fear a little bit of what might happen. Okay, and they do it. And then they acquiesce and they consent in a sense. Okay, but it's not that typical sexual assault. Okay, it's almost like that sex trafficking thing. So hopefully you left that out because that's really too strong for Jeffrey's crimes. It's really too tentative. That it's really on shady ground, in other words. Young girls, what do you think? 100% or tentative? Young girls, one planet, Venus. What's it going to be? Me, I put 100% because he's just so strongly attracted to them over and over. This guy must really like young girls. And young girls, as a planet, is ruled by Venus. If you're going for children, that's the Sun, Leo, 5th house. You'll notice I didn't put children? That's because I want to stay away from that pedophile thing. He's not interested in children. In Brazil, that could be his wife. Now, he doesn't have to go far for that 14-year-old to be his wife. He can go to Vatican City and get the Pope to marry them. And then it's husband and wife. So, young girls as an attraction. I'm interested. I think so. I went for it. Let's take a look. Okay, and there we have it. Venus conjunct Mars, as we already know, in Pisces. Fantasy, he's drawn to him. His Mars is attracted to that Venus. Let's pull up Ghislaine's chart. Ghislaine's chart. I want to show you something because we're kind of done here and I want to fold up. Yeah, we got 4 minutes. Let's do it. So are young girls denoted? Absolutely. You can't go wrong on the young girls. Very much attracted to young girls. That's his whole MO is young girls. Venus conjunct Mars in Pisces, showing he's fantasy oriented. Okay, that's really where you would come to when you looked at the chart anyway, in his chart. But you're looking for that Venus to play a major role. Venus conjunct Mars is a high libido in the fantasy sign, okay, of Pisces. That's right away. You got young girls all the way. Great pick if you did 100%. Okay, so what attracted him to Ghislaine and Ghislaine to him as partners? And some people are interested, what did those two see in each other? Well, let's take a look. Let's pull them up. Sun and Mercury in Capricorn for Jeffrey. Sun and Mercury in Capricorn for Ghislaine. They're on the same level of high status. They only want high status, the highest status people. Presidents and CEOs, as we've gone over and over and over. We're almost sick of hearing that word, I know. But that's where they're at. And that's how they saw eye to eye, and they saw opportunity with that. She had the Rolodex, he had the money. Together they worked. They ended up meeting, well, everybody of high status around the world. They just knew so many contacts, right? That's their business. Now, what about each other? They were attracted to each other. They were a couple, right? They were sexually attracted. Well, let's take a look. What does Jeffrey have? He has Venus, this is, the planet of courtship and attraction, conjunct Mars in Pisces. Okay, so his Mars, his masculine energy is attracted to women, young women, or attractive women in Pisces, softer women who are more feminine. So that's why I'm not surprised he goes for the younger girls, and plus his attraction to the physicality that we notice later. So he's attracted to women more feminine, where he's the man, And what does Ghislaine have? Venus conjunct Mars. What a coincidence. Okay, they both have Venus conjunct Mars. They're attracted to each other sexually. Yeah. Okay, so hers is Venus towards Mars. His was Mars toward Venus, what kind of girl he was attracted to. Let's see what guy she would be attracted to is Venus. So she's attracted to Mars in Capricorn. She's attracted to men of high status or power or money, etc. Well, with Capricorn. And that's what Jeffrey brought to the table. And that's what her husband brought to the table. Remember, she went on and married after that. I forget his name, but he was a billionaire. Anyway, so there they had the same energy attraction to each other. She wasn't quite as feminine as I think he preferred. Not only just not as young as he preferred, but she's quite attractive, but not quite as feminine. She had a lot of masculine energy. If you remember last week, we talked about that, masculine energy. I have like 30 seconds. So take one last look. You have Venus conjunct Mars for attraction between the two. Very strong sexual attraction there. They're attracted to each other naturally. So not surprising they became a couple. They're also attracted to the same, and they also see the world the same way in a lot of ways. With high status business, that's where they want to be. Ghislaine grew up in it, and he wants to get there, and he got there, and he wants to stay there. So basically, they're both Sun and Mercury and Capricorn dealing with business in a big way, dealing with high status people, and that's it. Kings, queens, CEOs, that's it. Way up status. So the 4 things. Sun and Mercury and Capricorn, they both have it. Venus conjunct Mars, they both have it. Okay, and that's that attraction. So that's why those 2 clicked so well. And we're done. Okay, we're done. I've gone like 30 seconds over. Sorry about that. I only want to stop at an hour and a half, but it was such a big job. So I hope that gave you an idea of how we do keywords and which ones should be used, which ones shouldn't maybe, stuff like that. Okay. So you saw, I told you which word I'd be using, and I'm going to use those planets and try to eliminate suspects. In my primary words, just as in closing, do you want to make my head big again or whatever? Let's close this up. The words that I was most interested in, that I'd be going for, to be honest, is math, status, and deception. That's where I would have started my search. Even though I had other 100%, I'd go over those 100%. But I do want to see math. I do want to see deception, absolutely, and status. I would have gone for those 3 things to start my list and eliminated those suspects, then gone through my other 100% and started eliminating more suspects. Because I was 100% sure of those, most of all, those 3. I would have put all my money on that. Those other ones I had 100% too, but I'll just do it bit by bit. Then I would worry about the tentative afterward to fill out the whole thing, maybe eliminate a few more suspects, see if any more information's come in, some more evidence, blah, blah, blah. That's basically how you do it. But make sure that your 100% is 100%. Now, we would have won on that. We would have eliminated some major competition to see who, or major suspects and stuff in that, right? We would have eliminated some. Because not all sex offenders are that big into status and business. Remember, we were going to eliminate suspects, and we were going for, say, sex offenders. We were actually attacking business and other things, and not even the sexual. My 3 headings actually all had to do with business and not even with sexual offenders, because I knew this person functioned on that level. I went for business. I'll worry about the sexual stuff later, even though they're going after a sexual offender. I know from reading about them, right, that this person is big in business and blah, 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 blah. And then we find out it's Jeffrey Epstein in the end. Right. Okay, so I hope you kind of understand the basic kind of ruling of how we do it. If you can narrow it down to a particular one sign or one planet, that's great. That's really good. Just like math, Saturn, nothing but. That's fantastic. Deception, Neptune, nothing but. So I call up everybody who has what you call an afflicted Neptune. And I pull up those suspects. I get rid of all the rest right away, just based on Neptune. And that eliminates a few suspects. And then I do it again with Saturn for math and eliminate more suspects. And then I go for big business and status, Saturn and Capricorn. I've already done Saturn, so I might be able to kill 2 birds with one stone there. But I'd also go for status, big status, because of the kings and queens. I would want to see Capricorn, Saturn, or 10th house, okay? And somebody would have to have that. So that's how you're eliminating suspects. I based it on 3 business decisions, not even sexual offender decisions, just because of the nature of the crimes. And that's how you can do it. But you want to be sure about those things you pick. Anyway, till next week, we will be looking at the BTK killer, Dennis Rader. So if you have a chance, check out some stuff on him online. Yeah, there's a new documentary on him on A&E. Well worth watching if you can get it. I had to call a friend who had cable because they wouldn't let me watch it unless I had a cable provider. So he let me use his Rogers. So I watched it. Really good video. But there's tons of stuff on YouTube on the BTK killer. And Dennis Rader, you get to see him in court on YouTube. There's a lot of court videos. You get to see him talk. So kind of prepare yourself for next week, and then we're going to tackle him. Till then, take care.